Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 144, Healthier Communication, Owning Your Truth. Well, welcome back to our theme of healthy communication this month and why I think it is so crucial to have in our relationships if we want healthy ones. Last week, if you joined us, we talked about how being clear and direct is so important if we want to be open and safe for people to talk with us, and I think to have emotional trust in our relationships. Well, today I want to focus on another integral part of creating safety, and one you hear me talk about all the time here on the show, and hence the name of the show, Owning It. Owning your truth, all of it, and every last bit of it. Because when you do, you will instill more trust and safety within yourself and in your relationships. Okay, so why does this matter so much? So remember how last week we talked about only emotionally honest communication is real, and that we need honest and real to have trust and to feel safe. Being honest and real means being in our truth and allowing other people to be in their truth. We also talked about how emotional dishonesty occurs in so many insidious ways without even telling a lie. Lying by omission, withholding your feelings, hiding what you really think, feel, and need, hiding your anger and yet leaking it out, maybe passive-aggressively, not really expressing your wishes or desires. And we talked about how that it creates a distance. It creates a vibe that even if you can't put your finger on it, you feel it. And they can feel it too, because it ain't the truth, like we talked about. And until we deal in the truth, we can't relax and feel safe. So that, like we talked about last week, creates anxiety and hurt, resentment, and fear possibly in our interactions. So that means this is not owning what is going on for us. They can't trust us, and more importantly, we don't trust us. And if you walk away from one nugget this month from what we're talking about, is I want you to focus on self-trust and emotional safety. Because without those, I don't think we can have good self-esteem and we can't have healthy relationships. All right, so why do we struggle to own it? And why do I think it was important enough to start a podcast about it? Well, you've heard me say many times how a 4-year-old knows exactly who they are. And they're in the moment and they don't give a shit about what you think. They crack up when something's funny. When they're hurting, they let you know. They'll say the truth about someone, and it won't be PC because they're in the truth and they're in the moment. And they're so in touch with who they are. Well, you did too at some early point in life, maybe when you were 4. But then maybe surviving in your early environments required you to stuff what you really thought, what you really felt, good or bad. And forget owning what you needed, right? Because you probably were talked out of those too. You don't need a cookie, dinner's almost ready. You already have enough clothes. What do you need to go shopping for? Why can't you be happy with what you have? I think this disowning, as it's called, is a huge deal because I believe it is a big contributor to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and definitely unhealthy relationships. I also think it can lead to more trauma in one's life because as you lack self-trust and self-love, it's going to lead you into settling for less than what is good for you. You're going to allow people to treat you in unhealthy ways. You're not going to listen to your gut. You're going to people please. You're going to let people tell you what reality is as opposed to what you know deep down is not okay. So there's red flags that you saw in the beginning of a relationship, perhaps, you pushed away. And you got manipulated by them instead of listening to your own truth. So being taught early on in life to not own who we are, to conform, to go along to get along, aka people please, to fear conflict because maybe it was horrible growing up or you don't have a good template because people didn't do it in your house. They just didn't deal. Or maybe you were punished verbally and or physically for speaking up and speaking out. So maybe your subconscious has some very bad memories about that and it didn't forget. So if you struggle to stand in your truth and own your truth no matter what, and to allow others to own their truth, there are probably very good reasons why you can't, or you used to and you don't now, or you never learned to. So don't be too hard on yourself and know that this is very changeable. It's quite a journey, and it's really a wonderful journey, I think, because I get the honor of walking along the path with people every week. And it's really great to see them come into their own. So when I say own your truth, what am I talking about? I mean, it's a great phrase, but what does it really mean? Well, let's talk about some of the aspects of own your truth. And there's a million more here to this list. It's endless. But here are the big ones, I think. First of all, your thoughts and your beliefs. What you think about things in the world, what you think about yourself, what do you think about situations, and what you believe. So your core beliefs about life, your beliefs about the world, your worldview, maybe your spirituality, what you think matters, like maybe love, honesty, truth, that kind of thing. What you believe about people, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about change, what you believe about what is right and wrong. This also ties into maybe some distorted beliefs that you are working on within yourself. Distorted meaning maybe they're not true. Maybe they're limiting. Maybe you heard things like, you can't do that, or you're not smart enough, or you're not this enough or that enough. So we have to take ownership of those too, not just the things we're proud of, because we can't work on what we don't name. Your passions are another aspect. What are you passionate about and why? Where's your why? Why does that matter to you? Usually tied into your gifts, right? What you're good at, what comes easy for you, what you're naturally interested in. We have to own those too. And that can be hard for people who don't want to stand out or have been shamed around that at some point out of someone else's immaturity and jealousy of you. It breaks my heart to see people not using their gifts and not being happy because they're afraid. They're afraid they can't. They're afraid it's not true that they're that talented, so on and so forth. A really big thing you need to own is your behavior. At every moment, all the time, every day. Not easy. Great when you're having a great day and things are going your way and you're real nice to people and you're kind and you're interested. What about when everything's going to crap? What about when you're upset and you're a mess and you're afraid and you don't know how to be assertive yet? All your behavior. The times you manipulated, the times you didn't tell the truth, the times you didn't talk about what was bothering you, the times you didn't ask for what you needed, those times. All of our behavior. How open and loving we are, how approachable we are, how we handle situations, how we handle conflict, on and on and on. You get what I'm saying? All of it. Tied into that is your grief. The grief that you haven't worked through yet, perhaps, or just, honoring what stage of the grief process you're in. Maybe you're in the bargaining stage and you're walking around doing all the what ifs and the if onlys. Just owning where you are. Having compassion, but also taking responsibility for that. Owning your fear. Wow, that's a big one. Fear is just the root of all evil. Within fear, here are your struggles. Struggling to accept reality, accept what is, accept what you can't have, accept your own limitations. Your struggle to be patient, to be on time, maybe to be kind all the time. The struggle to be vulnerable, to trust yourself. Maybe you struggle to let others in, Maybe you struggle to keep the bad people out. You struggle to trust, to try to be open to new things, to be open to being wrong, and that's okay. You're still a good person. To risk loving again. God, this list can be endless, but I think it's so crucial to really get in touch with what's going on for you so you don't act it out and it doesn't blow up your life. The other thing I want you to own are your mistakes. The lessons you kept repeating because you hadn't learned them yet. And there's a lot of context to those. We talk about that all the time here on the show. There's always context. There are no vacuums. And maybe you screwed up. Maybe you went too fast, you didn't listen, you didn't heed advice. So own it. You're still a good person. You can work through the grief around that, through the guilt, through the shame, but you can own it so you can put it away and learn from it and live differently because of it, not in spite of it. Owning your dreams, what you've always wanted for yourself in whatever arena that may be. Your career dreams, your relational dreams, your dreams for your community, for the world. Dreams for those you love, maybe your kids, maybe your partner, your sister. Own your dreams. They're not there by accident and they're not there to be ignored. They bring so much zest to life and meaning, I think. Your dreams should be tied in with your passions and your talents and your sense of purpose. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good sense of what I mean by owning it. Owning all of the aspects of you. They all matter. When we own more and more of ourselves, our insides match our outsides. Because it's such a wonderful payoff. I mean, you're going to feel so much more grounded and confident as you go. You're going to trust yourself more because you're no longer lying to yourself and therefore the world about who you really are. You're owning all the parts, the good, the bad, the ugly. Others are going to trust you and naturally feel safer with you, emotionally safer. And it allows them to become more genuine too and reveal more of who they really are. And then you guys can bond so much better. I think it's the only way to have healthy relationships with yourself and others. I think it's the only way to be proud of who you are. I think it's the only way to find and use your gifts by standing in your truth and the way to live your purpose. I think it's the only way to be in the moment and truly live, because if we're spending all this energy hiding who we are, we're hiding in the moment. We're not open. And we can't receive all the wonderful stuff. And we can't really be present for others. That's what's so sad. So there are many wonderful benefits for owning who you are, what you need, what you think, what you feel, how you behave, what your choices are, who you want to become, who you're still becoming, what you want to change, how you want to live. I want you to take this and make it whatever it means for you. What I want to drive home here is no more compartmentalization, no good person, bad person split, no disowning parts of yourself that you're ashamed of, you shame and or guilt around. Doing the work, as you know, if you've been listening here, is pulling up some of that with a safe person or safe people in a group, understanding why those things happened, why you struggle with those things, compassion and grief work around it, and then working on changing those things. Whether it's healing the trauma, changing behaviors, having healthier communication skills, working on your boundaries. Boundaries are a big part, by the way, obviously, of owning your truth. You have to have a healthy enough detachment from what's about them and what's about you. And when you first start doing boundary work, you're doing that all day long in your head. It's annoying and it can feel exhausting at first. That's what a client said to me the other day. He's like, this is like a part-time job. I said, yeah, it is. At first, until you internalize that as a natural way of being, like, oh, no, that's not my stuff. What's about me? Let me honor what's about me. And finally, it means not putting our caca on someone else. We don't lash out at them because we haven't done the grief work. We don't try to manipulate them to agree with us. We admit we're feeling vulnerable and scared, and it'd be lovely if they agree with our plan so that we could trust ourselves. But we admit that. We don't get mad at them because they don't think it's a great idea for whatever reasons, or that they can't go along for the ride with us. Healthy separateness is a huge part of taking responsibility. Okay, that's about them, but what's about me is your new mantra. All day long. Those are their feelings. How do I feel about this? Now, I can agree with them. Maybe I can change my mind because they gave me some good information. But I have to own that. I can't say, well, they won't let me. Or they got mad when I brought it up. Maybe they did. But what did you decide in the end? So owning it is constantly bringing it back to you. The buck has to stop with you. Your choices are yours. There's no more victim stance here. We can't put it on everyone else. Owning it can be scary. It's exhilarating. It's life-changing, but it can be scary at first. First thing I do with clients is ask them, who are your 2 to 3 really cool people in your life? Who won't bullshit you, who love you and know you and want the best for you, and will support you owning more and more truth. Because you're not going to be able to do this alone, and you need a coach, and if you have trauma work, you're going to need a counselor. It's too much to try to do by yourself. And plus, you're going to need the accountability anyway. We're not always the best people to hold ourselves accountable at first. We need other people to do that. We need to tell on ourselves. Okay, speaking of telling on ourselves, we're going to do an exercise here. We're going to do some soul searching. Now, those of you who have listened for a while are familiar with what we're getting ready to do, but if you're new to the show, just follow along. All right. So if you're driving or walking, etc., and can't write anything down, don't worry about it. Just trust whatever comes up for you immediately. When I read the sentence starter, just allow a quick 2 to 4 endings that immediately pop into your mind. Just notice them. Accept them. Don't evaluate the answers. Just trust that they are your truth. They're there to raise your awareness. They might be positive or negative or neutral. It doesn't matter. Now, hopefully it's not all negative or all positive. I mean, realistically, there's going to be a mix of both. All right. So if you can write things down, that's great. Just get a pen and paper ready or your phone and write what immediately comes up. Don't think about it. You can look at it later. All of the information is valuable. We're just raising awareness. We're not beating ourselves up. Just gives us some things to think about. These sentence starters are a wonderful exercise that the self-esteem guru Nathaniel Branden came up with many years ago. His point was that it gets us more in touch with our real truth that may have been hiding there for a long time. And I agree with him. That's why I use them. All right, you ready? Number 1. When I look at how I take personal responsibility for everything about me, when I look at how I take personal responsibility for everything about me, Number 2, growing up, my caregivers looked at owning their truth as Growing up, my caregivers looked at owning their truth as And number 3, when I have been brave and vulnerable and owned my truth with others. When I have been brave and vulnerable and owned my truth with others. Okay, so what came up for you when you heard those sentence starters? Hopefully a couple quick endings. Even if you just got one, that's fine. That was the one that was supposed to come. For those of you who get the newsletter, the download with these thought provokers, and a few more will be there for you to journal about later if you want to. It's really just to raise awareness. Things you might want to work on, things you might want to accept about yourself, things you might want to be proud of yourself for. Part of the disowning process we talked about in the beginning of the episode includes not being in touch with even things that we're doing right now that are great. That is why it's so good for us to have people we can talk to once a week where we can really tell them the truth. And they can tell us the truth about us too, in a loving way, to reflect back what they see, to encourage us, to nudge us along when we feel like giving up, and to applaud us when we are brave and work hard on changing things. So today we talked about what it really means to own your truth, which means everything about you, from your feelings, your thoughts, and your needs to your dreams, and everything in between. Owning our truth when we communicate creates self-confidence and I think helps to create emotional trust and safety with others. We explored why we may struggle to do this naturally and noted some of the great benefits we can experience as we get better and better at it. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. May you stay healthy, stand in your truth as much as you can, at least in your heart, and hold on to hope. Find something good in yourself today and look for some good out there. And if you see it in someone else, please tell them. They may really need to hear that. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com to get the newsletter if you don't already have it. And spread the word. The more people who listen, the more people who learn, and the more people who can grow. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.